Okay, everybody, I think Leota's about ready to go. Okay, everybody, I think Leota's about ready to go, so turn on your cameras and mics and everything else. You ready?
Yeah, we're live.
Okay, let's call this meeting to order, and the time right now, we're getting started due to some technical difficulties, is 10:09. The first little business before we even get to Pledge of Allegiance, I just want to make sure which counselors are on hand. We've got Counselor Jaramillo, you're here.
I'm present.
Counselor Abraham, you're present.
I'm here.
Counselor Abrams, you're here.
I'm here.
And Counselor Holly, you're here. Hang on. Counselor Holly, give us another sound check.
Unmuted.
All right, try it again.
Counselor Holly, give us another sound check.
I'm here.
Didn't set off World War III. Okay, so all present and accounted for. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico and the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Okay, counselors, first item is approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion on that.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the agenda.
Is that a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the agenda. Do a roll call vote. Counselor Holly?
Aye.
Counselor Abrams?
Aye.
Counselor Abraham?
Aye.
And Counselor Jaramillo?
Aye.
Thank you, counsel. Okay, the next item is a public hearing on the 2020-2021 Town of Edgewood budget. This is a public hearing. I'll gavel it in and we'll take public input. So for folks at home on the phone, if you could, give me your names.
Karen Kaiser.
This is Joey Towers.
Martha Eden. Martha Eden.
Got it. Okay, I've got Linda Burke. Anybody else? Public, is there anybody else? Okay, seeing none, then we'll proceed to public comment, public input, and we'll start with Karen Kaiser.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and council. Thank you for the opportunity for us this year. Last year, I attended the budget meeting, but we sat quietly in our chairs. So I think this is really a wonderful thing that you're doing for the town. I just had a couple things I wanted to bring up that I hope you all will give serious consideration to when you go through the budget. First, I just beg of you to stop spending money on the EPCOR takeover until you have properly brought this matter to the public and had a proper vote of council in an open meeting. You've spent over $159,000 from, I don't know what, the general fund perhaps. And no one, I've not met one person that wants it. I know that you've been in search of $14 million in financing to seize the water company. And again, I don't think anyone in the town is willing to take on that debt in our budget to seize the water company that we already have. I do think the town would be willing to take on debt to build roads. So secondly, I beg of you to budget more money for roads and then pave them. Health and safety concerns demand it. And from those that have lived here longer than me, I understand it's the reason Edgewood became a town. Get some roads paved. Not $1 for the paving of a new road has happened under your tenure, Mayor Bassett, and you're in this year. I think it's wrong. And thirdly, my last thing is I really humbly request that you stop expanding the sewer and budgeting money to do that to residential neighborhoods where no one wants it. Stop expanding the sewer to private land unless it is in the commercial corridor along Route 66 and I-40. If the pipes that have been laid within private land prove to serve absolutely no purpose to our town, perhaps those funds should be reimbursed to pay for beneficial expansion where we could attract commercial development. Those are the three things that are really important to me and many other people that I talk to. And I think that it really goes to show that we would do well to have a professional town manager free of political bias and personal needs that would help us navigate a healthy budget. Thank you for the time.
Next up is Jerry Powers.
Thanks. I think Ms. Kaiser really made most of the points that I wanted to talk about. Rather than being redundant, I'll just say that I've noticed that in the last year, the legal fees have been almost $150,000. And a lot of that was for S4. That's enough to pay a professional manager 2 times over for the town, which I think the town would really benefit from, take care of the day-to-day operations, make sure everything is managed professionally, and leave the council or commissioners, depending on how this special election goes, to look at the big picture items about the vision of Edgewood that the people have for it, the quality of life here, roads, trails, the things that are really important to them. And we hear that all the time, that we want more paved roads, we want some trails, we want some outdoor open space opportunities. That's what people seem to really value, and that's what I value about living in Edgewood, is the more rural environment and the opportunity to live in a low-density environment. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Next up is Martha Eden.
Mayor and council, I've been through as many of the monthly financial statements as I could find for the fiscal year 2020, ending June 30th. April was missing. I never was able to find it. I don't know if it was ever publicized or not. But I found that you spent $125,173 to Bohannon Houston, $233,467 to Horrocks Engineering. Total legal fees, I get $148,446. That all adds up to $500,000. I don't know what on earth the town received back for that expenditure, and I'm curious to know how much you have budgeted for the coming fiscal year for those 3 items.
Next person is Linda Burke.
Good morning, Council. Speaking on behalf of the Greater Edgewood Area Chamber. So we would like to encourage that Lodgers Tax Funding continue to promote the Discover Edgewood campaign. We'd also like to encourage the addition of directional signage within the town to help facilitate those in the community as well as those getting off the freeway to find our businesses. This is a concept I've spoken with Carla about on several occasions. As you know, getting off the freeway here can be difficult to find the hotel. It can be difficult to find some of our restaurants and businesses. Directional signage would be uniform in style so that it also indicates you're in the town of Edgewood, and would be something that could be changed and modified as businesses relocate within the town or enter, become new businesses in the town and so forth. I think that would be helpful to grow our business community as well, and to increase the identity for the town of Edgewood. Another expenditure I would love to see start being budgeted for is an upgrade on the electronic sign. I'm not sure how many of you have had the opportunity to see Moriarty's sign, but it is larger and much clearer and easier to read at a quick glance than the town. I'm grateful that we have the electronic sign we have, but I do think it's something we should start putting money aside for to upgrade, and then we can reuse the existing sign at another location, perhaps at the soccer field area. I'd also like to encourage the town to consider funding things that help not only local youth, but in our offerings as a destination activities. So things like trails development, signage for trails, equestrian center support, things that would encourage people to be getting off the freeway and coming to Edgewood. The studies show that when people do travel with their horses and they get off in town, they spend quite a bit of money because they're going to Walmart for supplies, they're going to the feed store for supplies. Those are things we have here, and we should encourage that kind of visitorship as much as we can. And then lastly, I'd just like to say that as the town is looking at where they're going to budget for infrastructure and things, those avenues that would support commercial development in the commercial corridor would be very much appreciated, so that it makes Edgewood a more attractive location for businesses to choose to come to, or for our existing businesses to consider expansion as the economy gets better, and it will. We want to keep our businesses here. We want to help them do everything that we can to be successful and to grow and to have offshoots, as well as attract new businesses that will bring new jobs to Edgewood, which I think we all agree is an important and significant part of the commercial community that's here. So that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who hadn't signed up that wants to speak?
Mayor, I did want to let you know I have comments from community members. Would you like me to read them in this section or in another area?
How many do you have?
There's like 10.
10? I don't know. Council, what's your preference?
I would like to hear the comments from the public. This is public hearing.
Are these comments electronic, or do you have them handwritten? What form are they in?
I just took notes on various areas that people have given me feedback, and then I saw Councilor Holly was on mute. What did you say, Councilor Holly?
Councilor Holly, we didn't hear your comments.
Okay, what I said was, if constituents have contacted the counselor with comments that they would like presented, I have no problem with that.
Okay, Councilor Harmiel, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So Rosalind said that she wanted road improvements, excuse me. Diane said road paved because that helps bring commercial business. Chris mentioned the horse arena and road maintenance. Christine mentioned roads. There was a Robert that mentioned that he wanted a road like the one by Dairy Queen under the bridge to 66. Gianna mentioned youth programs and that they were more important than horses and trails. Joyce mentioned sewer into compliance with NMED and paving and resurfacing roads. No on EPCOR, decrease legal fees, improve parks and the maintenance of parks. And then Joyce also mentioned trails. Fred said number 1, swimming pool, and number 2, many more paved roads. There was a Mary that said road maintenance, signs, quicker snow removal. Junkyards need to be addressed, such as Mustang Road, and definitely enforcing codes because of the health hazards that all of those messes bring. And Marion said, leave Epcot alone. James said to pave Camino del Sur and snowplow. And Philip mentioned addressing auditor recommendations and budget adjustments. And there was one community member as well that asked that we decrease our budget 10% each year and live on less and let volunteers and churches and nonprofits do more of the community things instead of increasing government every year. And that was it.
Okay, thank you. So I'll gavel out of the public hearing. We'll move on then to discussion of the 2020-2021 town budget report by the governing body. So councilors, basically, as you know, back in the spring, we were directed by DFA to adopt last year's budget pretty much straight across, which we did as an interim. And we've since moved to now we're working on the final version of that, and there are going to be some adjustments in there. I guess, tell me what's on your all's mind.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to, when looking at our budget and I see that we have budgeted $5,000 for recreation, that is really sad to me. I think we definitely need to bump up our budget for recreational things. I don't know if that includes trails or summer camps or whatever, but we definitely need to be spending more than $5,000 or budgeting more than $5,000 to our recreation department. That is just sad, and I mean, even a nonprofit can afford $5,000 for trails. So the other thing I have real concern about is still property cleanup. I know Councilor Ring brought this last year. He says, there's trash everywhere, and I do want to say thank you for the bins that were provided this weekend to help with that. I know we used to have cleanup days, I think at least once or twice a year, where the community would not just bring their trash, but they would help clean up the community as well. And so I would like us to, do some of that again. But the other thing is, I came last year with a real complaint of a property that is over there on Range Road. It has had multiple reports from the police department of having to go over there for prostitution, drug, use and all that kind of stuff. And that property is still exactly the same it was. It was boarded up, and now I think the boards are off and people are probably going in there again. I would like us to at least put back the $20,000 that we took out of that fund and put that back into property cleanup. So my focus this year would be bring the wastewater plant into compliance, limit our overtime, limit our legal fees, limit whatever it is we're spending so much money on engineering for, and start working on some of these things that the community wants: roads, trails, recreational opportunities, and property cleanup.
Other counselors? Councilor Abrams, Holly, Jaramillo, anybody?
Yes, Mayor. This is Councilor Jaramillo. I did want to ask about the department heads, and Juan and I had a discussion, I think, a couple weeks ago when I requested this meeting again about the department heads, and he did mention to me that pretty much it's the budget is pretty static from last year to this year. So you all didn't feel the need that they should come and present to us their needs or anything. But I just wanted to double check on that. Is there anything specific that needs to change from last year, or that the department had needs? I mean,
We have the
just
police department here, Counselor.
equipment or things like
Counselor,
that.
we have the police department here. They're going to give a little presentation here in a few minutes. They have some things they'd like us to consider.
Okay, very good. And then, how are we doing on road equipment? I think over the past couple of years, we've really focused on that, water truck and everything, and been pretty successful with the DOT auctions.
Right? Like to get a new motor grader.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, if I
Or-
may.
Go ahead, Mr. Torres.
Mayor and Councilor Jaramillo, one of the things we're still waiting to see is if the money that was allocated for the new grader, that was frozen. Now, if we haven't heard yet from DOT, if that's going to be issued now in severance tax bonds, so we're just kind of waiting to see if we're going to get that funding for the new grader. If not, I mean, I think we'll still try and do what we do every year, maybe apply for the hardship sale and see if maybe we can get some used equipment like we've gotten in the past, just to try and get us something, new to us, so to speak, like we've been getting. But I agree with you. I think we definitely need to keep up with the equipment. I don't want to get us to the point where we were with the old water truck, where it was in the shop more than it was on the road, and we were spending more to repair the thing than actually fueling it and getting it out on the road. So I think, like everyone, we're just kind of waiting and hoping to see that we'll get some sort of contract from the state when they sell those severance tax bonds, and but we don't have any confirmation at this point if we're actually going to receive those funds or not. All indication looks like we're going to, but we haven't had any formal communication from DOT whether or not they're going to. As soon as we get information, we'll definitely bring it forward to you.
And then as far as, since this is looking forward to a whole entire fiscal year, what's the vision on roads? I guess council does need to have some discussion on that, because the feedback that I got was overwhelming. It was just everybody was talking about roads and snow removal and maintenance and potholes, and I mean, of course that's something we deal with out here in rural, but our GRC has increased significantly, and I think that that was the whole point of Edgewood, is bring in the commercial and have better roads. So I guess my question on that is, do we need more staffing? I'm hearing about the equipment. Do we have plans to pave anything? I'm wanting to hear the vision for this next fiscal year on roads. And I'm really glad the police department is there, but I didn't have a single complaint about the police department. So let's talk about roads.
Well, I guess, Mayor, Council, if I may, so, we're once again, funding-wise, Church Street's still on that list too, so we're waiting to see if we're going to get that funding, the 2020 funding, back from the state. It was frozen, and if it does go the way they say, they're going to sell some severance tax bond, and then we'll get that funding. If they don't, and we don't hear anything back, we do have the 2019, and we're trying to see if that would at least get us paved to Aspen, or, so we're just trying to see what we can do with that funding, but it's all going to come down to funding, and if the governing body would like, I mean, we can definitely try and get RBC in here to explain what our current debt capacity is, what our bonding is, and what our funding options are for paving roads, and, it's up to you guys, I guess, how you want to proceed with that. I mean, I think, prior to the annexation, our debt capacity was essentially maxed out. Now that we have the annexation, there's additional debt capacity, and that's your guys' call how you'd like to do that. Same thing with whatever we have in the budget. I mean, if you'd like to spend excess on roads, I mean, that's your guys' your call. We just wait for, I guess that's speaking for staff, we just wait for you guys to tell us how you want to spend it, and we'll try and, get the roads and get it engineered. I guess also with respect to Horrocks and some of those, so we had Church Street was designed. The other one that we received the $50,000 from Senator White was for preliminary
Steeplechase.
design on Steeplechase.
Yeah.
So that was where that money was spent to get a kind of a preliminary design to pave Steeplechase. So, I mean, as we get funding, we are working towards looking at paving these areas, at least getting the design, and then once we have the design, then we can move forward with the funding. But I think that's bottom line is going to be our problem moving forward. You know,
As always with roads, you're at the mercy of the legislature.
you know, it costs depending on the road and what type of improvements. If we get a nice straight road, you know, we might look out and get away with 300,000, or once one like Steeplechase that'll need, you know, additional improvements and stuff. I mean, I think the estimate we had on that one was about 1.7 million. So you know, it's going to come down to, I guess, funding and the will of the governing body.
And then what about easier things to take care of, like potholes and maintenance and snow removal?
Well, Mayor, Council,
Is it a staffing? I'm just kind of wondering, is it a staffing issue?
well, as you recall, like in last year's budget workshop, you know, we have four people that when it snows that they've got, you know, what, 140 linear or lane miles to take care of, and some of these ones they'll drive up Frost, and by the time they turn around and drive back, it's like they were never there. I mean, I think the request at that point last year was for a complete additional crew for three more members to do it, but then it's the chicken egg thing, because now you get 3 more people. Now, do we have the equipment and stuff available
Right.
for that additional 3 people? You know, at any given time, especially with respect to snow removal, every piece of equipment we have that's available to push snow off the roads is out. So even if we had additional staffing, we would still need the equipment. So, yeah, I mean, and then it all comes down to funding. I mean, the equipment, unfortunately, is not cheap. And of course, neither is staffing. I mean, we're looking at another 300,000+ just for, you know, three additional crew members, including, you know, salaries and benefits.
What about like having some kind of on-call contractual service with people in the community that do that kind of work, that have that kind of equipment?
I mean, I guess we can try something, you know, issue some RFPs, get some people on standby. But once again, those people usually when we have a snow event, they're out there using their equipment, charging people to remove snow and do that. So I don't know if I mean, we can definitely look into it. I just don't know if they'd be willing to give that up to go work on our roads when they can be working on the private roads, because we also have equally as many miles of private roads as we do public roads. But yeah, it's definitely an option. We can look into it. I mean, it's the will of the governing body. You guys tell us what you want to do.
Does the governing body want to take a look at where we're at on debt capacity?
If we're going to take on debt, I think the community would rather do it on roads than any other form of debt we could take on.
Maybe that's something that we at least get the information on. And then, you know, it doesn't mean that anybody wants it to proceed, including the public, because they hear the word debt and they want to run away, but yet they want the roads paved. So, and then there's other things too, right? Chip sealing and just plain fixing of potholes and gravel.
I can tell you, years ago, the town talked about hiring private contractors to plow snow and that, and it just never worked out very good, because in the early morning there, when they start out, well, most of them have someplace they've got to go themselves. I guess they could take on or try to take on more, but long story short, it just kind of fizzled out. And of course, the snow quit coming for a long time. Excuse me. And so that one just kind of went away. I mean, it's an idea that's always out there to talk about or try, but you get all geared up for it, and then it quits snowing for several years, and So then it kind of fell apart, and, I mean, something you can try or look at doing, but most of the people I know that's got equipment like that are already committed to using it somewhere when a storm comes like that, and it usually just becomes a catch as catch can thing. I know in that big one there at the end of 18, Chief, he'd brought his tractor in here. I was using my tractor to clear people's driveways and stuff off, and, you know, we put together the best effort we could.
Mayor, Council, also, if I may, so, you know, this past year, we did Edgewood 7, did another chip seal completely on that to keep that road together for us. And that one was done off of that new local government, I guess it's the program that replaced the co-op and MAP, because we haven't had any, you know, information about the new co-op or MAP applications. But that's typically what we try and apply for that funding, just to maintain the existing paved roads that we have. You know, we're constantly filling orders for patch mix to go out and patch areas. But we do have roads that have some, they do have some needs. I mean, a good example, look at Broken Arrow. If any of you want to take a drive out there, I mean, I think there's more, you know, patches than there is actual original pavement left. And that's part of the problem. I mean, you know, I do hear the people in the community saying, you know, we need more roads, but the other thing you have to keep in mind is we also have to maintain the roads that we do pave. It's not just a simple, we pave it and it's miraculously done and we never have to touch it again. You know, we've done, you know, several miles of chip seal again on Dinkle just to make that road last another 7 years, you know. So those are things you do need to also consider when you talk about, you know, doing additional roads. One of them that I think is we're going to have to look at sooner rather than later is going to be Frost Road. It is a major east-west arterial. Probably every single student, or I'd say the majority of students that go to East Mountain High, you know, travel that road. You know, it does need some attention. We're trying our best to make sure we have, you know, we're patching where it's at. But you know, a couple of years ago, we went and did the crack seal on everything. And we were hoping to get. We applied for funding to do another chip seal job, just to once again save it. But you know, it might get to the point where it's like how South Horton was, where we're probably going to have to pulverize it and redo it on some spots. You know, but having the funding in place to do it's going to be something we're going to have to look at. And I think we're, you know, as the town, we need to really identify these roads. And you know, I understand everyone does want new roads, everyone does want them paved, but truly keep in mind we have to maintain the roads that we do have paved.
I can't stress that enough either. When you pave more road, then you pick up a bigger maintenance bill, and that just comes with the territory. And it's kind of a catch-22. The more you pave, the bigger the maintenance bill is then for the crack sealing. Like out on Dinkle, that one needed, what was that, about 1.5 miles that got done with a new coat of chip seal. It was getting pretty bad out there. So there went some money there. Didn't do a new road, but it fixed up an existing road, which needed it. So it's tough to get paving down.
I have a question. Didn't we at one point talk about having like a list of road priorities?
We do.
And maybe we could have like a list that needs repair, a list that needs, you know, that we recommend for paving, a list we recommend just for like upgrades or potholes or something like that, and have multiple lists. And so one year we do, you know, some paving and some graveling and some pothole repairs, and that we rotate through that list.
And I think you'll find that Mr. Williams
has been broken for a very long time. So maybe we need to invest in a new traffic counter machine to be able to rank some of these roads, and you know, maybe send out a survey or something like that as to who uses what roads, what, you know, not everybody wants a paved road. Once we paved some of those roads, then we had people complaining because now people are speeding on them, or the water flows down them too quick, or something like that. You know, there may be some communities who would just be fine if you would make their road drivable.
Mm-hmm. The other thing on that, Counselor, is, like I say, Mr. Williams over to Road Department, I'm sure he's got a short list there. Norton had one of which ones he would like to get to if he had the funding available, in addition to our paving priority list.
Mayor, Council, if I
Go
may.
ahead.
So one of the things we've also charged Mr. Williams with is essentially performing an audit, so to speak, of our roads, the various types. I mean, what condition are they in? What type, for the pavement, the asphalt, for the chip seal, what's the condition? How long does it think is last? What will it need to be fixed up? What will it need to be patched up just to keep it from deteriorating further? Even the gravel roads, which ones do need drainage improvements and stuff, just from their perspective. I know we have the drainage studies when we have areas where we know, but also just to have an overall condition of the road. And so, we tasked him with that, and it's going to take a while. We have a lot of roads in the town, so, and he's also out there with the crew working on it, but that's something that that's one of their goals this year, is to get something so tangible we have in hand and we can see, hey, here's the actual condition of the road. I mean, it's not going to be real time, so to speak, but at least this is the condition of the road this year. Here's the recommendations, so we have that available to us. We do hear the public, we hear the complaints. I probably more than you guys, and we try to address them as best we can. But once again, when you have so many needs, and I think we have a $250,000 for maintenance grounds, and the majority of that is just used to put additional base course down on the gravel roads that we do have. Some of those roads cost a lot of money just to put 2 inches of base down. And we've been working with that, and we're trying to use the money as wisely as possible, and we go off the recommendation of what our road supervisor tells us. He says, hey, this one's the worst, we need this, so we try and accommodate and do that. We also do take into account when we have people call and complain, we get them out there to look at where the complaint is, and try to address it as quickly as possible. And sometimes there's just some people that their request is just out of our budget. Potholes, grading, trying to fix the ditch where their drainage issues are, where it ponds up, where the road washes out. Those things we can do, but then just people come and I want you to pave our road. It's like, well, we have our priority list, and some of it might be a road that only has 5-6 homes on it, and we have arterials that aren't paved yet. So, I think once we have that list from Mr. Williams, once we want to bring it forward to you guys, and then really start taking a good look at the paving priority list and see what can we do to improve these. I mean, there's some roads that I think paving would definitely help, and at least it would help with maintenance and free them up. There's some roads where they're out there every week trying to just take care of them, and they're spending, we also get that call as well. It's like, oh, well, the road crew's always on this road. Why aren't they on our road? Why aren't they here? And we're always trying to balance out how that happens. But, some of the high travel roads, they go 50, 60 miles an hour, and that dust plume that's kicking up behind their vehicle, that's the road going away, as Norton used to always say. The washboard's constant, and I mean, it's a constant battle, and I mean, hats off to those guys for what they do and how they work for the town. I mean, they work very hard with, at limited resources. I wish we could give them more. But, ultimately, like I say, it's your call, and, we're trying to get you more information so you guys can make better decisions. I can definitely reach out to RBC and see what our current capacity is, make them have a presentation for you guys. But yeah, you guys let me know what you want.
Mr. Mayor, that would be good.
Councilor Holly, we haven't heard from you yet.
I could definitely get behind support for prioritizing what needs to be done with our roads. I hear that as well from our citizens. One consideration I would like to put forward to this council is showing some support for our employees. They are our most important resource. And last year, if I remember correctly, it was the department heads themselves that went and looked at their budgets to carve out some money so that everybody could get, I think it was just a 1% raise. I would like to have this governing body, like I said, show their support for our staff and consider a raise for the employees this year with our backing.
I understand the judge has already budgeted a raise for his court employees, and I believe nearby communities have also given raises. This has been a really tough year for everyone, having to work under the new health provisions, and I think our folks have done a yeoman's job. I know just putting on these council meetings, you know, having to do it online, long distance. Our library services, they've had to switch completely to online. I just think it's time to show our gratitude for the good work that our folks do for the entire community. So that's my ask this year.
So does that mean you want to relook at the pay plan?
I think we could, yes, I think we can do that. I know that'll take time, but I think, you know, today as we're reviewing the budget, I think we should include a raise for our folks.
Okay.
But yes, I would like to review the pay plan.
Okay. So how much money, Mr. Torres, do we need to budget for a new pay plan?
So, Mayor and Council, I've reached out, I actually reached out to our attorneys to get us a list of consultants who do the pay plan study. I've reached out to 5 of them so far, and I'm waiting for a call back. I did hear back from one of them, and this one is Public Sector Personnel Consultants. And I just asked them, you know, what would be a ballpark to look at all of our job descriptions and our pay plan classification, and kind of gave them a list of our employees. He said just kind of shooting from the hip, would be safe to say 15 to 20,000, putting that in the budget would get it done. And this one, I guess, so the attorneys gave me like the list of 5, and this one did classification compensation studies for City of Albuquerque, Town of Bernalillo, Village of Bosque Farms, City of Hobbs, City of Las Cruces, City of Rio Rancho, Sandoval County, Santa Fe County, Los Alamos County, New Mexico Junior College. So, you know, that they did have those names behind them. Some of the other ones did, like City of Santa Fe, Highland University, but that's the only phone call I've received back was 15 to 20,000.
Okay.
I think that would be a reasonable
We haven't
amount.
had a new pay plan since 2015, you know, and we do really need to look and see where we are. No, we do not want to underpay our employees, you know, but we also have to make sure that we're being consistent and stuff like that. So I agree that this is something that does need to be done, and I would like to see that put in the budget.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if I might ask, what kind of raises are the communities around us presenting to their employees? I don't have any information, so I'm curious. You know, what other communities around us have been doing? Does anybody know?
I think everybody else is being really cautious. You know, some of them are just struggling to survive. While we have been blessed with GRT, many of our neighbors have not.
Mayor and Council, so I know City of Moriarty put a 5% in their interim budget request. I don't know what their final budget was. Mountain Air, they don't do percentage raises. They just give a flat, you know, everyone gets 50 cents a dollar, and I think they gave everyone 50 cents. And then the other part of what they do is they do like I guess
Hold on, he's getting his mic fixed.
All right, that better, yes. Thank you, sorry about that. Okay, so, and then I think Mountain Air, the other part of theirs is like performance-based, so they have 50% or 50 cents that they give everyone, and then up to 50 cents that they'll give the other, you know, the rest, based on performance. I don't know what Estancia has done, but those are the ones that I know of.
Mayor?
Counselor
I was
Jaramillo?
wondering, I was wondering if we have all of the evaluations completed and if we are still on performance-based raises.
Mayor Council, so we have most of the evaluations. We're trying to start moving towards a quarterly instead of just annually. So with COVID, we didn't get this last quarter in. We're trying to adjust for that, just trying to adjust to the new working environment. And then, to my knowledge, I don't think we've ever actually given a performance based out since I've been here.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, Councilor Abrams.
Mr. Torres, do you know when the last substantial increase in pay for our employees was? I don't recall that it's been recent. I do remember the 1% offset for the insurance costs going up, but I know insurance costs have continued to go up. And I don't think that we've had anything. I think it's been years.
We did bring some employees up towards mid-year, didn't we?
Mayor
Yeah,
Council, so that was,
September we did. But the thing is, all of this is addressed in our personnel policy. I think we need to be following our personnel policy. It says we have to adopt, first of all, a pay scale, and then we need to look and see where everybody's at in that pay scale and make sure that they've had their evaluations. I mean, we have a policy to deal with this. We just need to follow it.
There is a downside to that, Councilor Abraham. If you come out with a new salary survey and stuff, you can have spikes where some employees get boosted up and others don't, and then they get the feeling like they're not being treated fairly. So if we're going to do this salary survey and stuff, part of our thinking was that give some kind of a raise in here before we do that so that everybody feels like they've gotten something. Because when that survey, if we do it and follow it and it comes out, and it may jack some employees up higher than other ones, and some of them may feel like, well, I guess I'm not going to get anything out of this. So sort of in the spirit of fairness, we were looking at maybe doing something ahead of time.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I don't care about a salary survey. We need to get it done. What I care about is our employees, if I am not mistaken, have not gotten any kind of cost of living increase for 5 or 6 years.
I don't think that's accurate.
I don't know exactly when the last was. Yes, we did adjust a few people's salary, I think 2 or 3. But we've got more than 3 employees. So, I mean, what would it cost us? I mean, what would it cost us for a 5% bump?
Mayor Council, so a 5% bump would cost, with wages and benefits and overtime, approximately $114,119.
Okay? $114,000 annual. Total.
And I guess, Mayor Council, also just for your consideration, just with the health insurance increase and some of the positions, some people coming off probation and stuff, our wages and benefits have gone up by, without any raise to the town, $88,069 this year. So that is one of the changes that is in the final budget, was just accounting for the new health insurance, and then employees that have, that have achieved
a piece of that health insurance. If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Torres, a piece of that health insurance is coming out of the pockets of our employees as well.
Yes, sir.
And as Councilor Abrams, as far as your recollection on the pay raises, I believe in my time in here, it was the 1%, and maybe there was a 2% or something in 16 into 17.
Mayor Council, I believe when I first started, that was my second day of employment here, was the budget hearing. And I think there was a raise given out, but I don't think that one was given to all employees. There were some employees, I think, with that classification plan that were reclassified, and some employees were given raises over others. And then there was a 2%, I want to say in 17-18, that was given to essentially offset the health insurance cost. And then last year, all employees got a 1% raise, and certain employees got a halfway to midpoint increase.
And then we adjusted the police department, didn't we?
Correct. The police department was adjusted, so now all officers make the same rate of pay and all sergeants make the same rate of pay.
Personally, I think that's all pretty sad. Back in 2017-18, basically you said that 2% was just to offset the health care increases, and last year 1%, and that was initiated by the employees themselves.
Right.
I mean, it's time we need to give everyone a bump.
And that's why I've been calling for a pay plan upgrade, because that pay plan will show we need to pay our employees more, and it will show how much more we need to pay. I mean,
Okay.
if we haven't done that since 2015, that's 5 years. They are going to get, I think, significant increases. I mean, it would be crazy to think they weren't. That was one of the reasons why, when we only brought up part of them last year, the argument was, well, if we do a whole Southie survey, it's going to bump it up too much. But now we have the money to bump them up to what they should be making, equivalent with other folks doing their job.
Okay. Any other
I
comments?
do agree with you. I just think we should budget the raises now, and yes, go ahead and contract for another salary survey. But
Okay.
I think we need to get those raises out to the folks now.
And how much do you propose to increase, since we have no idea what the increase is going to be?
Well, in light of the fact that they basically got nothing under this administration, I'm willing to go 5%.
Okay.
And then we'll see where things fall, when we have that study done.
Okay.
Any other topics?
Yes, Mayor, just, I do have a couple others. And going back to roads, because we kind of prematurely cut that off, I just wanted to make sure that you guys are all, if there's no objection to looking at the bonding capacity to what we do have, gives permission to the clerk to bring that information forward. And secondly, I would really like a monthly report to council like the other departments, as far as, number of complaints, how things were addressed, the list. I mean, we already have the ICIP list and the list for paving, but what about the other areas that Councilor Abraham asked about, as far as maintenance and how that's all rotated and everything? It would be excellent if we could get the department head to present to us just, once a month, and that way we know how to respond to the community members, and it also puts on record, right in the packet, exactly, as a form of communication, exactly what is being done, because sometimes people think that things aren't being done, and they really are being done. It's just a matter of communication. So I'd like the monthly report.
My only problem with that, I think Norton did give us a little bit of a report, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, it was
did.
very brief, and I'm thinking that we just need more details.
Well, them monthly reports can become quite onerous.
Mayor, Council, if I may, so I would like to do that. That's great. I think the only problem that I foresee with that is the tracking of it. And that's something I have looked into. And I don't know if any of you have been around Albuquerque or know anyone who lives in Albuquerque. They've got this program, the software called C-Click Fix. And it's it's tied into their 311 service. So when people call in complaints, they can text the pictures, they can do all of that, and then it can go to the various departments, and we can get, the department will get the complaint, the picture of where the area is, and then they can go and look at it and address it and then resolve it, and then it has a report. Because part of the problem we have now is some of the complaints for the road go straight to the road department. We never hear them, see them. Some go to James over in maintenance, some come into us, some come into planning and zoning. So I don't know how we would actually, we could accurately track everything, without some sort of tracking software. And the other thing too with that software, it goes beyond just, that program, it goes just beyond roads. If there are complaints that come in, they can, whether it be graffiti, something like that, it could go to the police department, it could go to planning and zoning. So that could be something we could look into. The last quote I received on that, it was approximately $8,000, which included the initial startup and then about $5,000 a year for the maintenance of it. That is something to consider, but I do think without some sort of tracking software, I don't know how we'll get every complaint logged in. We can do our best and we'll try it. That's the will of the governing body, but we might miss some complaints. I'll just be upfront about that now if we don't have something that can track it, because pretty much anyone who answers the phone here at Town Hall, road department, police department, all of them, we all get complaints from the citizens, often, and we'll point them in the right direction, put them with the right people, create service orders of some of the stuff depending on who it goes to. But to track it all, I think that would be the nightmare, I think, is just trying to make sure we got everything to you. So I don't know if it would be completely accurate, but like I said, we can definitely try it. And then, if it doesn't work out, maybe look at some of that software or something that can do it. But
That's what I'm kind of saying too. Before we make anything mandatory, let's see what we can do just on a kind of a volunteer basis to provide them some information and maybe go from there. Council, we do have the police chief here, and I'd like him to maybe come up here and give you some discussion about what his department's looking for. Chief, you want to come up here, and or any of your officers there want to come up and...
They'll be up in just a minute.
Give us an idea what your department's sort of looking for.
Okay. Mayor, Council, I have the sergeants here with me. They're going to be presenting here in just a second, but I wanted to touch on a couple of quick things. I don't know if it'd be possible. So there's a few needs that the department has. One of those is a major need relating to Senate Bill 8, which was just signed earlier this month, involving body cameras and storage of video. So we'll get into that here in a second. So first off, we are going to be asking for an increase in our budget. It's not an overwhelmingly large increase. It's about $56,000. It's going to be for the radio system, computers, and body cameras. So before I turn that over to the sergeants, I wanted to let you guys know we are going to be in a position real soon at the police department that we're going to be looking at overtime. And that's going to be with Officer Armando Campos being deployed. He deploys August 14th, and he returns in November of 2021. So we're looking at a little over a year without that officer in the field, that we got to keep that position. As well as that, it's come to our attention that 3 officers are looking at leaving and going to another agency. So a couple of things were cited, but the consistent between all 3 of them, and I'm glad it was brought up earlier, was the pay. So now that that's being addressed, maybe that could be a tool that we can use to try to retain those 3 officers. But for the presentation on the body cameras, the fleet computers and the cameras, I want to have the sergeants come up. As you know, this is my last meeting, and this is going to affect them a little more than it affects me, so I'd like them to present it to you and field any questions on it. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sergeant Urbina and Sergeant Lovato.
And Council, I'm going to turn my camera over there to help pick them up so you can see them.
Mayor, Council, bear with us.
Bear with them. I let them know that they're going to be
We're sergeants,
speaking
not chiefs, but hey, we'll do our best. Thank you.
Where we start?
So we'll start off with body cameras and fleet cameras. I don't know if you could see that there. You might have to go out a little bit there, Chief. Just a little bit more. There you go. So Senate Bill 8 was recently passed. Edgewood Police Department has always used body cameras. Currently has enough for each officer. Each officer is only issued one. With the new law, an officer can lose their police officer certification if contact with the public is not recorded or if it is interrupted for a variety of reasons. Current technology has limited storage and battery life. No backup system is in place if a camera goes down right now. Storage will also be a concern as we are already over our current storage capacity. So, with that being said, funding is needed to purchase 2 backup lapel cameras for incidents where a camera is broken or has a technological glitch, or if something is lost, battery is exhausted, or for some reason it is needed to be tagged into evidence. Like I said, just to reiterate, as of right now, we have no backup cameras. We have each officer issued only one. As this is now has implication on the very officer's certification, officers are required to maintain an employment. We need to ensure that we provide them with every opportunity to be protected and follow the new law that was signed earlier this month. Dash cameras, Edgewood PD currently runs only lapel cameras. We do not have dash cameras in our unit. Dash cameras would provide additional coverage in the event that a lapel camera goes down. It also provides the documentation of an arrest from all angles, including the rear seat. All contact now has to be recorded, including transport. Just to give you guys a kind of an idea of where we're sitting, our officers work 12-hour shifts, and our cameras have the capability of running on standby for about 8 hours. That's not recording, that's just standby. So if we're actually recording, we maybe, if it's on a full charge, have the capability of reaching from 3 to 4 hours. So we definitely need to give the officers some kind of extra possibility of a spare camera so where they can swap theirs out, put it to charge, and pick up the other one. So backup lapel cameras would, oh, you're not there, you skipped the page.
Skip one.
Yeah, you need to flip it over. Backup lapel cameras, for additional 2, would cost a one-time charge of $3,455. That's to add 2 additional backup lapel cameras. Next thing we're going to try to propose would be, no, you're still not on it. This is number 6, FTTs.
We need to go over the cost of the fleet cameras.
Oh, we've not touched it yet?
Yeah. So,
oh, okay.
Mayor, Council, the fleet cameras that Sergeant Lovato is talking about is what's being held up right now. And that's basically an insurance policy. So if they're on a contact with a driver at say a traffic stop or an arrest or something like that, and their lapel camera goes down for any number of reasons, we would have some kind of reliable backup that would not cost them, based off of a glitch in the system, it would not cost them their police officer certification permanently, the way this new law is written. So it's a reasonable, I guess just an insurance policy to make sure we retain our officers and we do our best to protect them.
So we met with our provider from Axon, we had a meeting and he broke down the cost of everything for the fleet cameras. Now this is a 5-year contract with Axon, who we are now utilizing for our body-worn cameras. They're the best cameras we've used since I've started here, by far. They have a secure storage life, accessible anywhere by authorized personnel only. They have a full 5-year warranty on all units, so if something breaks, they get us a new one and they either fix it or just send us a brand new one for the full 5-year term. They have tracked audit logs, which is excellent in court. It shows every time somebody has watched the video, pulled the video, looked at the video, you name it, it's completely tracked. They're tamper resistant, unlimited cloud storage with this plan. And the new technology upgrades at year 2 and year 5. So if something new comes out that's better, we get the rollover and get the newest version. These cameras also have auto activation of units when speed is triggered, when they're speed triggered, when lights come on, or there's a car crash. I think you could even set them to if there's a gunshot, anything like that. They'll start to record, and they have a 30-second pre-record. So if I turn on my lights, it starts recording 30 seconds before I turn on my lights, which is excellent for infractions, stop signs, stoplights, stuff like that. Cost for 11 new fleet cameras with install and upgrades at a 2 and 5 cost. This would be broken down per year, would be $22,481. Where are we at now, agencies?
Mayor, Council, this is Chief Crow. With that $22,000, that would be a reoccurring cost, obviously, so we'd ask that be placed into one of our contractual services line items. Currently, yes, that addresses storage.
And that's unlimited storage.
So currently, we do, like the Sergeant mentioned, have a contract for body cameras, and we're on that same plan that every 2 years, or at year 2 and year 5, we upgrade to the new body cameras, new generation. And we're actually looking at our first upgrade coming up this December, I believe. So that would be a reoccurring cost that we would need every year. And then this is the only reoccurring cost out of this presentation.
Next topic we'll talk about would be laptops or MDTs. Our current fleet is short 4 laptops, capable of running the new CAD system along with the Axon fleet. 2 staff members currently do not have laptops in their unit. The Toughbook laptops that we have reached the end of their lifespan. Some are over 5 years old. Breaking up the purchase to a few years instead of all at once could save us substantially. The cost for the new units would be a one-time, and along with power supply and stands, would be a one-time purchase amount of $14,744 for the 4 units. Sarge, you want to go into units, and I'll switch you. I'm sorry?
I can put on that. All right, so for the units for the marked versus unmarked, it's clearly a cost saving, clear cost saving. We'll reuse old radars and send them to get recertified. Purchase some items off the state contract versus buying local when cheaper. Cutting builds down to lessen the impact of budget. Current police budget for vehicle is $88,000, which was cut down last year, resulting in us having a shift over fund or cancel other purchases laptops. Unmarked build is $88,602. Marked build is the total of $93,688, saving $5,086 for the unmarked.
Mayor, Council, this is Chief Crow again. I keep throwing my 2 cents in here, but just to make sure it's covered. So the marked and unmarked units, so a fully marked unit would be what Sergeant Lovato is driving around, the white truck with the decals on the side. The unmarked version would be what I'm driving around currently, and that would be for the supervisors. So it is within state law, as long as there's a government plate and a forward-facing red light, it does classify as a marked police unit. We're just talking about the decals on the side, push bumper, I believe, coming off, and moving from a full cage in the back from the sergeants to a half cage, as well as taking the toolbox out, buying them locally here at Tractor Supply. A couple little cost savings there, but the total difference was that $5,086 between building them fully marked like what you're used to seeing and unmarked like what my unit currently is.
Have you had any problems with the unmarked?
No. So
somebody doesn't think you're an officer?
No, we haven't had any issues with nobody failing to yield or anything.
Because you've
like
got all the light package on there, right?
Yes, it's fully equipped with the lights, siren, hopefully soon to be cameras.
Okay.
If there's no questions, I'll keep moving on. Okay, so the next topic we'd like to discuss is going to be radio upgrades. This is extremely important. Santa Fe RACC, our dispatch system, is planning on moving to a digital system in November or December of this year. Our current fleet includes all but 3 mobile and 3 portable radios that are capable of transitioning to the digital system. Requesting the purchase so officers can reach RACC, because once they change, we have to have digital radios, and there is no transition period. It's almost like a light switch. Either we are digital ready or we have no radio. Along with the digital capable radios, we have to purchase the new license keys, moving from the old system to the new one for each radio. That would be all 22 systems that we have, which would be portables as well as the ones in our vehicles. Programming and license keys for the entire fleet, everything that we have in the vehicles along with our handhelds, would be a cost of $10,274. To purchase an additional 3 mobiles and 3 portable radios to get us up to par with and ready for the transition would cost $6,353. These are both one-time amounts. They're not reoccurring amounts.
So, Mayor, Council, I know we've thrown a lot of numbers and things like that at you, but this page that Sergeant Urbina is holding up right now, this kind of gives the breakdown. The far right side of it is the overall budget increase that we're asking for. So if it is to include everything, that's the radios, laptops, cameras, and the change on the units, to be marked units, it would be that $62,995 on top of our current budget. That way we need to meet all these. Going with the unmarked units, it'd be $57,909. Not making any change to the units. We just have to find the money somewhere else, pull it out of LAPF or some other route, start pulling from other line items. Without the units, it would be $57,307. But definitely, like the sergeant explained, the radios, absolutely, we need that. They just will not be able to communicate with Santa Fe. You're aware that recently we changed over our CAD system, and we're still working to hook up to CAD, so we don't even have in-vehicle dispatching as our sister agencies in the area do. So we're relying 100% on the radio, and if they take that away, we have no way to communicate with our dispatch center. So this is out of all those, the radios definitely is the #1 ask. And then obviously the cameras, providing that safety net for the officers, because we've experienced here just simple foot pursuit up on the interstate. Sergeant Lovato ran about 15 feet and his camera fell off. The magnetic clips aren't the greatest in the world, and with the way that new law is written, if something is not recorded, something is not documented, the officer is seen to be in bad faith and is held liable, and they can lose their certification permanently. So providing them with that little backup of a camera watching from a wide angle back in the vehicle could be a potential career saver for our officers. So with that's all we had, so we'll stand for
Council
questions.
have any questions for the officers?
I do, Mayor and Chief, Councilor Jaramillo. I just wanted to know if we had run these recommendations, if they're coming through the associations and the municipal league, and maybe even our legal counsel, as far as, have they looked at this plan and they're on board with these recommendations exactly? I feel quite disgusted that the state would go after our police officers in that way, and making them personally liable, and I find that very abhorrent. But just wanted to make sure that the process that we've gone through, I guess you could say.
Okay, and I'll turn that over to Juan, because I did reach out to our legal team on this. He can answer that.
So, Mayor, Council, I did reach out with Robles Royal and Anaya, and I've authorized them to kind of do like a white paper, because there's issues that, it just kind of goes against constitutionality, and they're looking into that just to see, what protection can we offer our officers. We're putting their entire career in the hands of a $1,000 piece of equipment. So they're writing up a white paper, trying to provide something for us, because we want to, it's important. I don't want us to lose our officers over, once again, a camera falling off in an altercation or something of that nature. So they are looking into it. They're going to try and get something to us. We don't want to be the case study where one of our officers loses a certification because of something like that. But we were trying to get them as much support as we can with respect to the legal system. Hopefully we'll get something soon. Part of the problem came in is when we were discussing this, it's like, well, do we want to, I'll go ahead and authorize this to look into it, or do we want to see who the first case study is and see what the outcome is? And I think just for the for our officers' sake, I would rather us proactively look into it and see what protections we can provide them versus, them losing their certification and have to challenge it all the way to the Supreme Court if need be, just to see if they can keep their job and their career. I mean, they're putting their lives on the line for our town, for our community. I think as much support as we can give them would be beneficial. But we are looking into it. Robos Real and Anaya is looking into, once again, the legality of the new law. They do think there's some issues in there that will be challenged, and we just want to try and provide the officers with as much protection. With respect to the league, the last thing I heard with the league is they were trying to look at who has cameras, who doesn't, and they were going to provide some sort of grant system based upon need. And that's the last I've heard on that. I haven't heard anything else from AJ or anyone else on the league as to what they're planning to do. The Association of Counties, I heard they were trying to look into something similar as well, but I'm not certain. And I think that's kind of put everyone, especially a lot of the smaller agencies, they're just trying to figure out, well, what do we do? I mean, as they brought up, these cameras, they're not even standby time for the entire shift that they work. They fall down, something breaks on them, we need to have the backups, we need to have the stuff available to them, but we are looking into it. To answer your question, I don't know if we have all the answers, but as we get them, we'll definitely bring them forth and keep you guys apprised of what the outcome is.
Okay, and so I just wanted to check on that. I'm glad that you're running it through the legal channels. And to the officers, thank you for presenting today. I am 100% behind you, and I back the blue.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Council have any other questions for the officers or chief?
This is Counselor Holly. I'd just like to say I appreciate the presentation, and I appreciate also the savings that you're trying to keep, keep within budget. But I think it's important that you have everything you need to do your job and to stay safe. So I support the request that you've put forward, and this is the most important job that a town can do, is to provide for public safety of its community. So as Councilor Jaramillo said, we're all with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And as always, you've got my support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Same here. You guys keep us, always up there in the top 10 of safest cities in New Mexico. We appreciate that. Chief, we are going to miss you, so good luck on your new venture.
Thank you.
I'm really sorry we can't have a big going away bash for you, but you're taking lots of hearts from Edgewood with you when you go.
Thank you. Thank you. It's definitely not the going away I envisioned with everything going on in the world right now, but I'll take what I can get.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the officers. Let's take a couple 2 or 3 minute break. What's my where's the vending machine in this place? I would say it's in one of the offices. Okay, council, you still there? Let's get back online and push ahead. Is Counselor Jaramillo or Holly there?
I'm here.
We got 3 of you. Okay, now we got all 4 back. Okay, council, so that takes us through the discussion. The best thing probably is move into action items where we actually get into the numbers here a little bit. So the first one would be number A, discussion, consideration, action on approval of resolution 2020-13 end of year budget adjustments.
Mayor. Councilor Mayor.
Oh, go ahead, Counselor.
Yes, Mayor, I did not get through my list of priorities to talk about.
What else you got?
So code enforcement, I did want to hear from Tanya as far as what the plan for that is this year. I know, like I said, I got complaints about Mustang, and Councilor Abraham mentioned Range Road as well. What is the plan for that, and do we need budget?
Well, as Counselor Abraham said, you can put money back into that fund to clean up, and they would deal with them as the complaints come in, and if they've got budget available to try to do something. And ones on Mustang, they're a tough one. They sort of live in it, sort of don't live in it, and when you go over there, it's like, well, are they living in it, or is it an abandoned thing or something? But that would be probably the shortest distance between doing something or not doing something would be putting that 20,000 back in there.
Okay, thank you. Then also, I wanted to address, along with Councilor Abrams, the trail in front of Edgewood Middle School, and just making sure that, well, on Venus, to make sure that the kiddos can walk and bike to school. And so I was hoping that, I know our GRT was higher, if we want to do, like Councilor Abrams mentioned at one of the last meetings, taking some cash of the GRT that came in higher than expected, and work on that trail, hire some people, get some volunteers, whatever we need to do, coordinate with the county. I do have a message in to the county manager about that exact topic at Councilor Abrams' request for some assistance on that as well. I did hear back from her on the equestrian center. She did say that it should have been open as of last week, but there was some confusion with her staff. But the only area that is locked is the arena, and she said since the town of Edgewood has declined to help the county manage the arena, that she's gonna be forced to look for some kind of local trustee. And again, this is something that I had requested to be on the agenda, and it does impact budget, of course. Are we going to stand by our resolutions in support of this arena and partner with the county locally? Or are we going to do what she's under the impression she's going to have to do, which is the town of Edgewood will not cooperate and look for a trustee? So I'm just telling you what her exact message was.
Well, if she would ever call me up and talk with me.
Several of us are going to have a conversation with her, because that is not true.
That is not true.
Well,
And I have tried to reach out to her going clear back into last year to talk about that very subject, and I've never gotten a response from them. So if she would like to call me up and you can get a hold of her, you have her give me a call.
Yeah, and I'll try and get a hold of her too.
I've reached out and reached out.
That is a really good question, though, as far as budget. Mr. Torres, is there anything for the equestrian center that we need to consider budgeting here?
We need to budget the pay station that we talked about.
Mayor Council, I mean, we've never been given approval from the county to install the pay station or the kiosk, so, I
But
mean.
do we have the budget?
Oh, well, of course, you guys can put that in there if you like, but we've never been given the authorization to do it, so we've never gone and got quotes or.
We need to have a clear discussion with the county regarding this. This back and forth has gone on for way too long. And, you know, that we're getting cross messages here. This needs to end, and we need to have an actual agreement with the county, period.
I agree.
Without
That's
an
what we've been
agreement
trying
with
to
the
seek
county,
with
it
them.
doesn't matter what resolution we pass, it doesn't matter what budget we put out there, it doesn't matter at all because we can't do anything. So we need to sit down with the county manager, with Rudy, with whomever else we need to, and iron this
The
stuff.
very
out.
thing we've been trying to do. I don't know what's their
Yeah.
problem up there other than COVID, which affects all of us, but they have been non-responsive.
And this is, sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead,
Go
Counselor
ahead.
Holly.
Counselor Holly, I'll add my 2 cents. I touched base with Commissioner Rudy Garcia yesterday. Basically, he told me that the property is open for trail rides, and a couple of weeks, they hope to have the riding arena open. But I agree with Counselor Abrams. We can't do anything until we sit down face to face and get this all ironed out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Then next on my list is just looking ahead. I still would like eventually to work for win-win solutions on water treatment. And then, but that's not something we can address here today, right at this moment. Then, okay, going back to the trail for the middle school, for the kiddos, I think it's super important that, and I don't know if that's true, Counselor Abraham had mentioned we only have $5,000 for recreation. Maybe Mr. Torres, you can address that, but I do think we need some money for that trail for sure, because we need the kids to be, this is a safety issue.
Councilor Jaramillo, if I'm correct in just looking at what we've got budgeted, the Parks and Recreation budget is somewhere in the near vicinity of $130,000. Part of that, of course, is salaries and benefits, but we've got a heck of a lot more than $5,000.
Mayor, Council, if I may, so that 5,000 that's showing up on the recap, that's the legacy amount that was left from back when the town had cigarette tax, and it's just sitting there. The town's never spent it. It's just sitting there. That's what's on the books with DFA. Because if you recall, back when municipalities were still getting the cigarette tax, it was specifically, when the legislature passed that tax, it was specifically for recreation. But since when they did their big hold harmless phase out and all that other stuff, the cigarette tax was one of the ones that they clawed back and said this one will also help plug the gap so the state's not out money. And then found out that wasn't true and still didn't give us that back. But that's what that was for, and that's kind of the legacy amount that's been sitting on there. I want to say we've got, I think it's 144,000 budgeted. Give me 1 sec. For Parks and Recreation.
Okay, so can we add some into the budget for that specific trail for the kids?
Or is that enough to do the trail?
Mayor, councilors, if I may, the section of trail that I have complained bitterly about is actually on Santa Fe County property, not on town property. It is the easement in front of the fire station. That is a problem there. The other piece is going to have to wait until we get the bridge that Councilor Ring was so heartfelt about installed across Bachelor Draw so that we can have a trail over to the ball fields / soccer fields / park. So there's a section of trail that's gonna have to be designed, engineered, or whatever. I don't know what the plan is there. But in order to connect everything, that section in front of the firehouse is Santa Fe County's. And I'm full well intent upon talking to the county manager about, hey, how come you haven't done this yet? That's not our section. As far as additional trails, some of the things that I would love to see is I would love to see the road that we paved this year with.
Hold up, hold up, hold up. Lost our phone connection. Hang on. Even the freaking phone don't work in this fucking meeting.
Pound or hash you entered no digits. Please re-enter your access. To enable audio
Okay, you guys there?
I'm here.
Is everybody back? Is everybody back? Okay.
Yay. So as I was saying, I'm concerned about the section of trail in front of the firehouse. We probably would be premature to think about the trail between Municipal Way and where the bridge will be and the other side of it. I think there are plans already in place for that landscaping and that change, but that's still something in the future when that can happen. The pieces of trail that I really would like to see looked at are on the road that we paved this year, which is Horton from Dinkle up over the hill past Montessori School. I guess to Frontage Road, if you want to call it that, or whatever it's called. I think piece of it's called Cowboy Way or something. But along that easement, I mean, we've already got a trail basically following Horton, from Dinkle north. If we could go from Dinkle south, that would be really great. I don't know if any of you are out pedaling around or walking around, but personally, it's a little bit scary when you're pedaling a bicycle and somebody comes up over that hill. It can get exciting if you're, off into the ditch real quick. Been there, got the t-shirt. That's also something that happens along Dinkle itself. And I know some of the homeowners along Dinkle have at one time or another said that they would be more than willing to
Hold on a second, hold on.
Okay.
Councilor Abraham, are you still there?
I'm here, I have to take a call.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilor Abrams.
What I was talking about is Dinkle, north and south from 344. That area right in there is no place for somebody to walk or ride a bicycle or ride a horse unless you're in the ditch. And on one side, of course, we have state land, and we could conceivably approach the state land office to move their fence back. We could ask them to move their fence back and park something on that side, or, as I was saying before, some of the homeowners have mentioned that they wouldn't mind having a trail along that frontage right there. So, I mean, yeah, there's lots of things we could do trails-wise.
And so, as far as the part, Counselor Abrams, from 344 to the gates of the school, is that something that the town could work on, that we could collaborate and work on as far as that piece, and then work on the county separately?
Are you talking about West Venus?
Yes, I am.
West
It's because
Venus?
of the kids, the safety of the kids is what I'm really worried about. And I've had 2 school board members already address this with me, and I've brought it up several times.
Sure. I mean, it's.
Now, Counselor Jaramillo, clarify for me, which trail are you talking about? You said from Dinkle to the gate of the school on Venus?
No, it would be.
No, 344. It's just a really small piece, West Venus, from 344 to the gates of Edgewood Middle School.
Okay.
And of course, like along 344, we need as well, right? But that's what Councilor Abrams is saying, that's county property.
Well, 344 in front of, what we did is we went up to the road cut for the fire department. We didn't go past it. So from the road cut where the fire trucks go out onto 344 south to Municipal Way, there is nothing. And there is a giant sinkhole kind of about halfway through that if you want to go check it out, don't fall in.
I think that's drainage out of their lot there, isn't it, into the 344 bar ditch?
Yeah.
I don't know, all of the details on it. I'm sure Parks and Rec has looked at this before, but I do know that I want the kids to be able to safely bike and walk to the middle school.
Well, and then from the mailboxes at the corner of 344 and Venus, west to the school gates, I mean, that could be done. I don't know. I would have to go take another look and see if it's already level enough or if work would have to be done to level it. But to put a gravel path in there is not that big of a job, I don't believe.
Do you think that we could use the 5,000 for that and maybe put another 5 from our budget, or 10? I don't know.
I think 10,000. I think we did the 2 miles from the firehouse to Hill Ranch for about 20,000, 25,000, something like that. So
Okay.
$5,000. Oh yeah, you can do that much gravel.
So, Mayor, Council.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a pretty small ask. Okay.
Mr. Torres, you're muted right now.
Oh, no, Mayor, Council, so I think the only thing that would be expensive on that one would be if we would need to purchase easement or right-of-way from the state for that section. I don't know who owns the piece that First Choice is on, but we would have to, that'd be the only part, just from talking from 344 to the school. Who owns that part, so we could put it in, I don't know if that's the town, or I don't know, the school, if that's part of the lease. I mean, if it's part of it, maybe we can talk to First Choice about putting the trail in, and then with the school portion, talk to the school, because I think they've got that as well, and as long as we get the permission. But if it isn't there and we have to purchase the easement, I think that's the most expensive part of that. And we do have approximately, I think from last year's budget was about 12,000, which is same thing as this year, 12,000 in the Parks and Rec budget just for the trails. So, we could definitely apply that towards there to get that trail. But I think if anything, the most expensive part would be purchasing right-of-way easement from the state if it doesn't already exist. Otherwise, it would just be getting the permission from either First Choice or the schools to let us extend it out there. We might have to move a fence or something, or change an access and maybe put the trail on the other side of the fence. But that's something we can definitely look at. Also, with respect to... Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to mention, because you mentioned asking the school, I did talked to the superintendent about it, and I think, of course, everybody wants to collaborate, and it's something I can bring up with the county on their piece too. But on our side, that would be great if we could get that done this year. The other ask that I had, of course, is youth programming for the kids. That's important. That was brought up by the community, and so I know, it is truly important. I know there are after school and before school programs, and of course with COVID, everything is different, I know. But I would like some money allocated there. And then the financial GL software package does need to be upgraded for transparency purposes and other reasons. And I can't remember, Juan, the exact amount of that, but I do know that we need to upgrade our financial software. That was the last thing on my list that I wanted to bring up, and just see how council feels about it, and if we want Mr. Torres to allocate some money there. The nice thing about that, there might be a little bit of ongoing cost, but we do have extra GRT. And Mr. Torres, maybe you could talk to us about how much more came in last year that's sitting in cash balance that we may be able to use for these types of one-time purchases.
Mayor, council, I guess if you want to.
Let's get into that fourth quarter.
On that fourth quarter, on your resolution B, if you go into just that cover sheet right behind the resolution where it says it's the State of New Mexico Local Government Budget Management System report recap. So if you look, we started the year with $940,000 in the operating fund plus the investments. Our revenues of $5.5 million minus our transfers and expenditures were, if you subtract, we're ending the year with almost $1.9 million, but if you take out our required reserves, we're at $1.6 million of balance that's available. And that's just general. And then you go down to the capital projects portion, and we've got another $913,000 available in capital projects.
Yeah.
So we're doing quite well, and we are very healthy at this particular point in time. Glad to see that.
Well, let's get on into the action items here, and we can discuss it more. First one is discussion, consideration, action on approval of resolution number 2020-13, end of year budget adjustment. Mr. Torres, this is item number 4A. Go ahead and give us a rundown on it.
All right, Mayor and Council, these are our end of year adjustments. And you'll notice,
Thank you, ma'am.
Get right into it, the general fund, year-to-date actuals. So Councilor Jaramillo, specifically what you're talking about. So the GRT local option, we realized an additional $384,000 on that. So that would adjust the budget to $2.2 million for that. Property tax, now granted, the property tax, everything that we collect, we send to the road department. We budgeted additionally $440,075, and we had to increase it by $22,104. So year to date, $462,179. State shared GRT budgeted $2,104,841, increase of $131,733. So a total for that GRT is $2,236,574. Our building permits came in higher than budgeted, almost double. Had to increase it by $3,715, so a total of $7,067. Business licenses, we brought in more business licenses as well. Impact fees, this is one of those, and you'll see that throughout some of these adjustments. For whatever reason, some of our line items, when we did our migration from version 8 to version 9 on Encode, the crosswalk, we did budget for it, but it didn't transition in the crosswalk. So there's some items where it says current budget 0, but the fact is we did budget, it just didn't go through in the crosswalk. But the impact fees, we brought in $34,459 this year. Rental fees, we were up until COVID hit, and then so that's as of March when we closed down the community center. Had to increase that by an additional 180. Court fines, They brought in more than the previous year, had to increase it by 6,981. Insurance recoveries, we always kind of put that 5,000 placeholder in there. We had a police unit that was involved in an accident, and so this was the money received for that unit. So the total of 16,601. Small cities assistance, have no idea why the amount came in so much more. In the past, all we ever received was 90,000. This year, we brought in 388,720, so that's what that one's there for. Other distributions, this is again, we had some stuff planned in there. We probably would have had to do an adjustment on here, but this is the library, the GO bond, some of the state DWI grants and stuff that we received. So just some of those reimbursements. So total total revenue for the increase for the general fund, $918,072. Now the general fund expenditures, the largest thing, and I'm going to change this year, how we're doing it, is in the past when we would book our GRT, we would book the actual cash received. And so the largest thing that we have on those line items, and we'll get to it on the quarterly report, was it's other other operating costs, the way the state categorizes it. But it's if we look at our GRT distribution, on every distribution, we have an administrative fee, and we have a contract for our debt service that's taken out and sent to it's intercepted and given sent to the finance authority. So in the past, we've never budgeted for that administrative fee and contract. We always just kind of did it like we're doing now, an end of the year adjustment. So this last year, it was a total of approximately $314,000, $50,000 approximately for the administrative fee on the GRT collected, and $263,800 for the contract for the debt service. And I believe that one is tied to our Edgewood Loan 4. And if I remember correctly, that's the one for Animal Control, Police Department. It was the town. It was the one we repurposed to get into this building, into the police department. So we've never, in the past, we've never booked those ones. So that's the biggest reason. We did have some salary over budget items on the overtime, salary and wages and benefits. So on finance and administration, a total increase of $265,559. So with an adjusted budget of $1,172,649. Law enforcement, an increase. So once again, we were over on some line items, mainly overtime, salaries, wages, and benefits. But for the entire department, just $17,182. So it would take the total for law enforcement to $1,567,466. Here's another one, fire protection, the next one. So the money that we pay Santa Fe County for our fire services, that GRT increment that we promised them, for whatever reason in the crosswalk, it didn't go through. So we originally want to say we had about $360,000 in there, but for whatever reason it's not in there, so we just have to put that in. So $401,722 was the amount for fire protection. Animal control, kind of something similar as well. The overtime went through on the crosswalk, but the base salaries didn't go through. So that's what that $72,840 is, bringing that total to $150,361 for the animal control budget. And then library, most of this was additional expenditures due to COVID, so we kind of had to scramble and restructure. So Andrea shifted a lot of resources to join the online consortium, which allows people to check books out online. We purchased a lot of books for that as well. And it was taken out of GO bonds, so we're going to request reimbursement. It's just something we didn't plan for or plan to budget for this year. So total for the general fund expenditure, increasing the budget amount by $769,895. Moving on to court fines. So the corrections, once again, they brought in more court fines for this one than we had originally budgeted. An additional $2,367. Lodgers tax. Once again, we were going strong until COVID, so I'm not certain what this is going to be next year. I do still see people at the hotel and at the RV park, but an additional $7,021 for lodgers tax. Animal shelter, $3,435 in donations on the revenue side, and on the expenditure side, $1,260. GO bond debt service and the expenditure, these were both ones where, once again, the crosswalk, it didn't go through, so on the final budget. So even though we originally budgeted for them, when we submitted to DFA, the crosswalk didn't work, so I've actually gone through this year just to make sure these things are in the crosswalk. But the property tax, $273,866 in revenue, and then the debt service payment of $249,436. Cell tower escrow fund revenue. So we did have one additional cell tower application come in to upgrade that. So that's what the additional $8,500 is. And the expenditures, this was closing out a bunch of ones that were left open. So we contacted Verizon, Sprint, and all the T-Mobile to see who they belong to and paid out the stuff that needed to be paid out. And then municipal streets, once again, this was that increase for the property tax. We increased the transfer by $19,192. So the total adjusted budget for that is $462,179, which matches the total amount of property tax collected.
Council have any questions about Resolution 2020-13?
I have a question. It may be a silly one, but I have a question. If we submitted a budget to DFA and we have all these things that didn't crosswalk over, what was the budget that they received? I mean, were these amounts included in the, do we not verify the budget we send with the budget they received?
So the way the budget process works, and we have the crosswalk on our financial system, and we'll upload that into DFA, and what it does is it takes all of our numbers and crosses them over. But if you recall last year, we also had the system upgrade. We've upgraded from Encode version 8 to 9, and so when we submitted the final budget, once again, because everything was there in the previous year, we just assumed it was there, so that's my mistake. And it didn't cross over. So it was just the line item that wasn't on there for whatever reason. It is on there this year. I have verified and made those adjustments in there. Talked with Encode. We're going to get a new crosswalk ready for next year. But this year was kind of weird because we're not using the crosswalk since we passed last year's budget as our interim. So that's what's currently on the system. But yeah, your council, it was my mistake. I didn't put it through.
Okay. That needed clarification. I would assume, it's like reconciling a checkbook that once you submitted something, you would reconcile what they received. But, okay, thank you.
No other questions. I'll entertain a motion on this one.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2020-13, end of year budget adjustments.
Got a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2020-13, a budget resolution authorizing budget adjustments. Start here, Councilor Hawley.
Aye.
Councilor Abraham. Councilor Abraham, are you there? Councilor Abraham?
Yeah, aye.
Councilor Jaramillo?
Aye.
And Councilor Abrams?
Aye.
Thank you, Council. Okay, the next item then is discussion, consideration, action on approval of resolution number 2020-14, approving the fiscal year 2019-2020 fourth quarter report. Mr. Torres.
Mayor Council, so what you have before you is the resolution and then the fourth quarter recap and then a copy of the report. So the important thing on this is just to notice that the numbers that are being reported on this fourth quarter, these cash balances on that recap, those are going to be the numbers that are going to be adjusted over onto our final budget. I mean, it does have the breakdown of all, the line items and the different funds, and if you'll notice, like at the end of each fund, anything that was over kind of matches what our over budget was, or our budget adjustments, just so we don't exceed budget authority. But once again, the important thing on this one is that that you know that what you're approving is you're approving off on these final fourth quarter cash balances, which were going to be reported to DFA on the final budget.
Well, I'll move to approve budget resolution number 2020-14, approving fourth quarter financials.
You got a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve resolution number 2020-14, a budget resolution approving the fourth quarter financial report for fiscal year 2019-2020. Start here, Councilor Abraham. Councilor Abraham.
Aye. Aye.
Councilor Abrams.
Aye.
Councilor Jaramillo.
Aye.
And Councilor Holly.
Aye.
Thank you, Council. Okay, the final one then is discussion, consideration, action on approval of resolution number 2020-15, adopting the 2020-2021 final budget for the town of Edgewood. Mr. Torres?
So, Mayor Council, what you have
Take us
before
through this
you
one.
is the resolution for the final budget. On the actual budget, the difference between the interim budget and this one, as of right now, is the increases for health insurance, benefits, and then some of the wages from employees who've completed probation, or the shifting around of employees to different positions. It also does have increased on the other operating costs. I did put those administrative fees in there right away from the start, so hopefully we won't see an increase at next year's budget year end. I mean, if we do, it means we brought in more revenue, so I guess we want to see that, but it's in this budget. And then I guess all the things where I made double checked where we had a zero amount, it's now in there. Manually went through and put those numbers back in. So it's you guys let me know, I guess, what other additions you'd like me to add in, and I will put those into the final budget before submittal, and then I'll also send you a copy of the final budget once it is submitted.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Mr. Abrams.
Mr. Torres, I would like to see about $63,000 added to the police department's budget for their asks regarding cameras, recording equipment, storage, and vehicles. I would also like to see $20,000 put into the administrative budget for a review of salaries and positions. And I would like to see $115,000 or thereabouts put in various budgets for various departments for raises of 5% for employees.
What was your second one, Councilor Abrams?
The $20,000 for
$20,000 in the administrative budget for a salary survey and a review of position titles.
Gotcha.
Or whatever that.
Yeah.
That.
And then it was
115
115 for the salary? No, but it was 115 for the salary increase?
5%.
Yeah, or thereabouts. It's about 115, 114 some, and some change,
Gotcha.
I think is what Mr. Torres said. And I would also like to see something, and I'm not sure exactly how to voice this request, but I would like to see some action and some funding behind trails. Now, we've got the $5,600 in that one fund. I don't know exactly what we do with that, if we transfer that money to Parks and Rec and add it to the 12,000 for trails, or how we do that. But whatever we need to do, we need to commit that money and see if we can get the 900 feet or so of trail between 344 and the school done. I would like to see the trail from 344 connected to the trail at Horton. Gee gosh, does that make any sense? Kids come from the other neighborhood the other direction too. So I don't know whose property that is. I know a good piece of it belongs to the schools. I know another huge piece of it belongs to the state. So if we can take some time and make some effort to talk to the state about section 16 and its perimeter, maybe we can get some more trails done there.
Mayor, Council, really quick, Councilor Abrams, if I may, can I suggest that for specifically for those trails, I mean, we do have that 12,000 that is in the Parks and Rec now. We can use that to try and apply that for the connection from 344 to Venus. But for the additional trails, if you would, maybe grant me a little bit so I can get some engineer to look at it and see what we could potentially do and put that into our, so we can come back to you and say, here's what it'll actually take to get the trail, that connecting from 344 to Horton or just around section 16.
Yeah, I know we've got a bar ditch, but it's hard to put a trail in a bar ditch. I get it.
So how much are we talking?
Mayor, Council, I think I should.
I would like to see the $5,600 at least encumbered on that first section from 344 to the school. I don't know what we have to do.
Right, is that gonna require a transfer out of that cigarette fund or whatever?
Yeah, we'll have to do a separate thing to authorize the transfer, but I think, like I said, let me get a price and cost estimate to the governing body before.
So how much do you think you need on that?
It should be preliminary,
We don't know.
10,000 for engineering, and then we should actually have something to come forth, the plan or something to bring forth and say, here's the estimated costs and quantities. I don't.
So are you good for 10,000 on that?
I think 10,000 is probably overkill, but if you want to go there, okay, fine. I would like to ask Councilor Holly if she would mind in her position with First Choice to bring this to their board and ask that they look into allowing us to put that trail in. I don't know if the easement is there already.
Oh, you're talking up there on Venus, on West Venus, right?
Talking West Venus from 344 to the school.
Yeah, okay.
And I would also ask Councilor Jaramillo to speak with the school to talk about how to get the trail across the front of the school. I don't know if that fence needs to be moved back to the edge of the parking lot or what, but if we put that trail through, they're going to have to move their fence and they're going to have to allow us easement as well.
Right, I did have that conversation, and I think she is willing, but of course, it's going to be logistics, right? So,
If I recall correctly, the school doesn't own that property, that's the state land office. They lease that one. This one they own, but that one they lease. So I think the two owners, if it's First Choice or it may be state land office all the way across there.
Well, if it's state land office, then that's where we have to go for the rest of it anyway. So.
Okay.
Anyway, that's where I want to go with this. I'd love to hear what everybody else has got.
Mr.
I
Mayor?
would, oh, go ahead, Counselor Holly.
I was just going to say, I'm in agreement with Counselor Abrams. My number one, as you know, with the salary increases, we definitely need to support the increased budget for the police department for what they asked for today. And as I told Counselor Abraham, I'm happy to get that salary and job classification review done as well. And I'm good with those. And then I'd like to see, you know, what the rest of the budget looks like with those increases. I think we've done a wonderful job these last few years being conservative with our budget. You know, we were all concerned about this year, and I know our GRTs are increased, but I still don't think we know what's ahead of us. This is going to be such an unusual year, so I'm hesitant to do much more than that. So I'll listen to hear what everybody else has to say.
Mayor, Council, Mayor, quick.
Go ahead.
So, Mayor, Council, that is something that we are going to monitor, and I think, I mean, the second we start seeing something changing with our revenue, we'll bring it forth to you. I mean, we might even call a special meeting, or, you know, just to make you guys aware of it and let the public know. I mean, yeah, like we said, we got from DFA, they said pass a flat budget. Municipal League said pass a budget with the 25% reduction. Our actual revenues are showing us up. I really don't know what to think. So we're definitely going to monitor it closely, and as things come in and change, we'll definitely bring them forth to you. I imagine we'll probably be doing, I mean, if there's changes like that, if we have the fluctuation, we'll definitely be bringing forth several budget adjustments for you guys moving forward in this next year. Hopefully there's not change, and we get a quick resolve to the COVID thing, but I'm not certain that's going to be the case. But we will monitor it, and definitely, if adjustments are needed, bring them to your attention sooner rather than later.
And Mr. Torres, I did want to clarify, so you had mentioned that salaries are already increasing to 88, so the total salary increases would be approximately 210,000?
Let's see. Total salary increase would be for a 5% would be 202,188.61 with the additional benefits and salary changes that were already going to happen.
Okay, and then I do agree with Councilor Abraham and Abrams on the pay study itself. And I had a question. You and I had discussed about the ENCODE upgrade that would allow the transparency portal and other things. Approximately how much is that?
Off of last year's price quote that they gave me was about $8,900 for that, but the main part of that one was the initial implementation, and then after that I think the cost went down to about $4,000 a year for the maintenance of it. But what that would do would be, as we do our monthly report, it basically takes a dump of what our financial system says, puts it out there for the public, so you can click on any vendor and you can see the check that was written, the amount, the description, that just all becomes publicly available.
Okay, so that is something that I would ask that we take. We do need to be careful with recurring, like salaries, you know, recurring things, but I think the trails definitely is one-time expense. This upgrade for the most part is a one-time expense. Even youth programming, if we could put in, you know, even 20,000, that's kind of on the low end, but if, you know, given COVID, that's probably reasonable. Non-recurring revenue for this year, I would ask for that. And then as far as cash balance, just to address the public outcry for road situation and maintenance, I do think we should take some cash that we have extra and put that toward road maintenance, potholes, patches, cracks, whatever we can do on that. I know that our GRT came in much higher than expected, so maybe if we even took, you know, 100,000, 200,000 for those one-time expenditures on roads, that's my suggestion. What does council think about that?
Well,
I think those are all good ideas. The other thing that we haven't addressed at all is the wastewater plant. Do we foresee any major needs for that coming up this year? We are in the process of our re-permitting process. Is there anything in there that we may need to budget for that we haven't already included?
Mayor, council, I don't think we can actually say until we get the new permit what the new requirements are going to be of it. I will say with the everything else, I mean, all the completion, you know, from the notice of violation, the pad's now poured, everything else is completed with that. We're looking to do the screens, you know, get that stuff implemented, you know, within this next year. There's some other, you know, the SCADA improvements, the dip tanks, we're working towards all of that. We've budgeted in to add so we can keep purchasing the additional membranes. I think as we hear back from Mr. Hall on what he recommends on how we change operation and maintenance, I think that'll be where we'll have to come in with budget adjustments later. But I specifically with the permit, I don't know what the new requirements are going to be, and we'll have to wait and see for that new permit once it comes in to see what we'll have to do. But definitely we'll have to address those when they come in.
Has Mr. Hall indicated any thing? I mean, you know, he wasn't part of this budget process. Did he look at the budget and have any concerns?
So right now, well, the big thing that he's trying to address is trying to do the cleaning schedule with the new membranes and something to fight the hardness. But he doesn't have you know, he's analyzing it now to see what we need to do to address it. And I think once he has that in place, then we'll move forward. But also, at the same time, like once we get the dip tank, that might actually change how our cleaning procedures are going to be. But he hasn't brought anything forth that says that, you know, it's an absolute necessity. We have to have this. That's going to alter our budget. He did have some one-time purchases that he says we're going to need, like with that chlorine monitoring pump, but we've already authorized that to move forward. I mean, that's well within the current budget. We always try and put a little bit of extra in there for the wastewater for those types of things if we have a pump fail or something like that. So I think we're good. It doesn't seem like that one was too expensive. I think he said the estimate was about $3,000, so we're getting a quote and we'll get that installed. But anything major or, you know, expensive out of the ordinary that comes up, we'll definitely bring it forward. And hopefully I'll have him here to present something like that so he can explain the need and stuff like that, because once again, he's the operator and understands that stuff better than anyone here, so we can definitely address it when it comes up.
All right, so my comments would be I totally support what we need for the police. I think that that's imperative. That I think has to be our number one. Health, safety, and welfare concerns need to be our number one issues that we deal with. So the police department, that needs to be, I think, number one. We do need to get the salary survey. I would like to respond to the citizens as far as their request for road information and trails. I like the idea of that small trail going from 344 up to the school. So those are my thoughts. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Counselor.
Counselor Harmino. I think we need to have the report from our roads department before we commit any amount of money. Knowing that we do have some money banked is a comfort. And I would like to see where the needs are. I mean, I have seen what's going on over on Frost. It's not pretty. Broken Arrow has been a broken road for a long time. I have seen East Venus become an absolute freighters of the moon. And I know that the road crews are working on Horton between Nugent and the pavement at Venus almost weekly. So on this side of town, I know that there's a lot. On the other side of 333, on the other side of Old 66, we've got Steeplechase, which is a nightmare. I don't know if you've been on that lately, but it's not fun. And there's a bunch of other feeders over in there that we need to pay attention to. So I want to see what our road crews tell us we need and see if we can figure out how much money it's going to take and knock one or two of those off. I think we did an admirable job on Horton this year, and I think the resurface on Edgewood 7 was absolutely necessary. But where the priorities are, I don't know yet. I'm seeing Frost looking awful. It's getting pretty rough. So I want to see some perspective, and then I want to see what it's going to cost, and then I think we can do a budget adjustment in the future. We know from past councils, from past discussions, that we need to have a couple of $1 million in the roads budget that we don't have. If we take everything that we have right now that is banked and throw it at roads, it's still not going to be in. So, highest priorities first, and then we go from there. Hopefully our revenues will hold, and we will continue to see this sort of flat income in GRT that we've seen over the last 5 or 6 months. If that's the case, then we would be in very good shape if we keep this budget fairly flat. I mean, we're talking about $240-ish thousand, $250,000 of increases, which is, that's pretty reasonable in the grand scheme of things when we've got almost $2 million banked. I think having some of that in addition to our reserves, which we must by state law maintain, I think we will be well placed if things start to slip a little bit. The other thing is I'm hopeful that we can improve and increase our fleet for road maintenance, because that is, I think, where we really need to make the investment. We could do a lot better on keeping our gravel roads up to snuff if we had more equipment and more people.
Thank you, Counselor.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Counselor Hawley, I just wanted to add to what Counselor Abrams said. We do have a new road department supervisor, and I think we would do well to let Mr. Williams kind of get his feet wet, get the lay of the land, and maybe bring him in after he's been here for 1 quarter. And he'll have a new perspective on things and what he's identified and what he sees needs to be happened. And I think that would help us to inform our decisions. So I'd like to kind of wait and give him a chance to get familiar with what's going on and report back to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. If there's no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion on this one.
All right. Well, I'll dive in. Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve Resolution 2020-15, a resolution adopting the Town of Edgewood final budget with the additions and changes as discussed in the last part of the session here. With regards to the police department raises for staff across the board, with the monies set aside for a review of salaries and positions, a stipend and some one-time costs for accounting and administration, And if I'm forgetting anything, please remind me, but I think Mr. Torres has
The
gotten that all written down.
the trail up there at the middle
Trail,
school.
yeah.
Did we put the money back in for, planning and zoning cleaning
Oh, right,
property?
yes.
Yeah, that's another one. The
Planning and zoning.
The cleanup fund,
and
the
adding to
20,000.
Adding to the recreation budget, and, well, that's not in the budget, but then the budget adjustment to move the $5,600 from one fund to another, that's gonna have to
cigarette
be-
tax or whatever. Got a second?
Second,
Motion's been made and seconded to approve adoption of Resolution 2020-21, the final budget for the town of Edgewood. We'll do this on a roll call vote. Start here, Counselor Abraham.
aye.
Counselor Abrams.
Aye.
Counselor Jaramillo.
Aye.
And Counselor Holly.
Aye.
Thank you, Counsel. Next item is a motion to adjourn. I'll entertain that.
Move to adjourn, Mayor.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. Counselor Jaramillo.
Aye.
Counselor Abraham.
Aye.
Counselor Abrams.
Aye.
And Counselor Holly.
Aye.
Thank you, Counsel.